Good evening and welcome. Tonight we will be going over the history and geography of Cayo in Belize. But first, a word about its name. So, I have a little policy on my channel that I pronounce everything in American English just to keep things, cohesive, basically. I always give the example that here we say Paris, but it's actually Paris. And it would just be really weird if I just kept saying Paris all the time, So here's the thing. In Belize, the main language spoken is English, right? It's one of the neat facts about Belize. It's the only Central American country that primarily speaks English other than Spanish. So in English, it's pronounced Cayo, C-A-Y-O. However, there is a form of Creole spoken in Belize, and in that language, it's pronounced Cayo. But also, if you speak Spanish, like many of the neighbors do, you can see it borders Guatemala right here, they pronounce it Cayo. So it can be pronounced, apparently all three are acceptable, but I'm going to stick with Cayo because that is evidently how it's pronounced in English. So there's that. Just note that. One of the many neat facts, I think, about this district. This is the largest district in Belize. It is a little country, so it's a nice big chunk of it here in the center, but it's also on the western border there with Guatemala, alongside Guatemala's Petén region, which is very thickly forested and was the home of the ancient Maya, and we'll talk about that in history. This district is also pretty thickly forested, especially down in here. There's a few national parks. You can see right here, there's Chiqui, I can't read it. I've seen it spelled different ways, I promise. Chiquibu National Park. But there's a bunch of others that have not complicated Mayan names. But the top half is, as you can see here, more inhabited, even though there's not like a ton of people living here. There's definitely way more people living in this half than this half, because this half is all forest pretty much. And like forest reserves, national parks, things like that. You can see the Maya Mountains making up the border of the district here. And this half has a lot of rivers. You can see the Belize River right there, and it's not marked, but the Belmopan River flows through this area as well. Hence the name of this city, Belmopan, which is the capital of Belize. But it is not the capital of Cayo district. That would be San Ignacio over here. We'll talk about why this is in history. Why is the capital city here? Why is it not its own thing? Maybe it will be someday, but as of now, it's part of Cayo district. Let's talk about the history of this little corner of Belize, or big corner of Belize, I guess. Like I said, this is Maya country, the Maya Mundi, apparently it's called. People would have started living in this part of the Petén in about 1200 BCE. And Caracal, which you can see down here, was the largest of the Mayan settlements in what's now Cayo, Belize. There were quite a few. There's also quite a few caves that we'll look at on Google Earth that were ceremonial caves. But there are lots of cities, Caracal by far being the largest. It was settled, like I said, earlier around 1200 BCE, but the population really began to bloom around the 600s CE. And the people living here were pretty good warriors. They warred with a lot of the other nearby cities, most famously Tikal over here. And they actually won. They won a lot of those wars, gaining a lot of power and prestige. Of course, the Maya collapse would signal the end of the glory days of Caracal and the other cities here. Caracal would have been abandoned by the year 1050. And the Maya collapse is one of those history mysteries that we'll always wonder about. We'll have ideas about what happened, but we'll never have a definitive answer, because it was probably many reasons why their society and civilization just kind of fell apart. It could have been a drought, a famine, it could have been an economic crash, it could have been a lot of things. But what I find interesting is that more people lived in Caracal than live in this entire district. There were tens of thousands of people that lived in this Mayan city, and only about a couple thousand that live in the total of the district here. Isn't that interesting? The peak of civilization was 1,000 years ago. Sorry, 1,500 years ago, let's say. A long time ago. When the Spanish arrived, they established this town here, but they called it El Cayo. The word Cayo in Spanish comes from the word key or K, which was a Taino word for island, which is why we have the Florida Keys, we have the Keys in the Bahamas, so on and so forth. When they found this spot, it was surrounded by rivers and creeks, so they were like, oh, it's like a little island, so they called it the island, kind of tongue-in-cheek. But sadly, those creeks have all dried up, and this town is no longer surrounded by waterways, so I suppose they just changed the name to make it more appropriate. But this area of Belize was not really settled until the 20th century. There's a town, I don't think it's on this map. No, it's about here or so. It's called Spanish Lookout. And my pencil's flying away as I look at my notes. Spanish Lookout. And it was established by Mennonites. If you don't know, Mennonites are what we call in the U.S. the Amish. They are people who believe that they should not use technology, modernization. Everything should be kept like old school. Farming, making your own clothes, making your own food. Lots of religious focused activities, things like that. So they have little colonies throughout the world, and they like to choose very isolated places to try to stay away from as much as civilization as possible. So there's quite a few Mennonite communities in this part of Belize, but Spanish Lookout is the biggest by far. And apparently it has Mennonites from all over. The original inhabitants here came from Mexico, but many from Paraguay and Canada have moved to Spanish Lookout. Now, in the year 1961, the coastline of Belize was slammed with Hurricane Hattie. You can see Belize City right here, which you've already covered on the channel. Check out my Belize playlist for more. This was the capital of Belize until Hurricane Hattie hit it, and a huge tidal wave destroyed most of the city. Many people lost their homes. So they decided that the capital city would be relocated far more inland so that that could never happen again. So they picked this site here because it's almost in like the center of the country. Back then it was still part of the UK when this was all going on. It was not independent yet. It was in the center of the colony, and it had access to this long road you can see here. It's like the main highway of Belize, so it would have easy access to the coast and into Guatemala. Plus it's far away from the ocean, so no tidal waves there. And they named it Belmopan after the two rivers that flowed nearby, the Belize and the Mopan. Construction began on Belmopan in 1966. It's still pretty much ongoing to this day. It is a very tiny city. because there's really no reason for people to relocate to the middle of the wilderness. From what I read, most of the population are just government workers and their families. Like no one's like relocating here for whatever reason other than they work for the government. So it's very tiny and very quaint apparently. Very quiet for a capital city. And that's pretty much it. That's it for the history of this area. It's beautifully forested, very quiet. And yeah, that's about all the history I got for you. But there's so much to show you on my tablet. Let me go pull up Google Earth on my tablet and we'll take a look at all of the amazing sites here at Cayo District. Let's go. Here we are in Cayo District. And let's start by zooming out so you can see exactly where we are in the world. If you don't know Central America, Belize might be a little bit hard to find because it's fairly tiny. Not as small as El Salvador, but still is pretty small. It's located right here, wedged between Guatemala and the Yucatan in Mexico. Along the Caribbean Sea here, Belize has a very famous coral reef, the second largest in the world and the largest in the Western Hemisphere, because the largest is in Australia, of course. But that is where we are tonight. You can see this area here. Remember what we say on my channel about straight lines on a map? Mother Nature doesn't make straight lines. And if you see a straight line, that means there's nothing there. There is nothing to differentiate this side from that side. There's no mountain, there's no river, there's no landmark. So here you can see a river, right? Here there's nothing. It is all rainforest. You can see all of the deforestation on the Guatemalan side as opposed to the Belizean side. But yeah, there's nothing to distinguish one side from the other. They are lines on a map. So, Mountain Pine Ridge, that was the one I was thinking of. I'm trying to show you guys, but let's start. Let's start with the main event. I gotta find it. I don't think it's tagged, but we will find it. It's somewhere down here. We saw it on the map. There it is. It is tagged. Caracol, the largest Mayan city in Belize. And look at these beautiful ruins. Look at that big pyramid there. Absolutely gorgeous. There's a map there of what's been found so far. This site, like many other of the Mayan sites we're going to look at, were found by accident by people just wandering. I guess someone was looking for hardwood trees and they stumbled across a Mayan city. Pretty amazing. Oh wow, that face. A big mound, I bet you that's man-made. Little huts. That's definitely not Mayan, but it looks nice. But yeah, that is Caracol. You can see how much has been cleared around it. There's the big pyramid. Maybe that's the big pyramid. They're not tagged, but still pretty amazing. I know that they're using lots of like sonar to scan the Petén to try to find more Mayan sites that have been swallowed up by the forest. Because imagine if there's just like a whole city right here that we don't know of because it's just too hard to access. We may never know. It's pretty neat, I think. Alright. And then let me show you Chiquibul. I mean, I was close enough. There's no pictures of it though, but there are pictures of this. There we go. Mountain Pine Ridge Forest. And we can see all of the natural beauty. Lots of waterfalls, lots of scary caves. You can see here. I'll show you. It's not one of these, but the highest waterfall in Central America is in Cayo District. Looks like there was a fire over here, little one. There's some Mayan ruins. Isn't that beautiful? I think that was Calakmul. Oh, I think this is the waterfall right here. Oh, wow. That's pretty Beautiful, beautiful. And of course, there's all kinds of little resorts and eco lodges throughout here. You can see Blue Hole Camp along the river there. Lakeview. I'm going to try to show you here it is, the 1,000-foot falls. This is the highest waterfall in Central America. Yep, that was it. Look at it go. That's spectacular. That's a beautiful waterfall. There's a little lookout point so that you can see it. Look at these beautiful trees. Are like pine trees. Not really what you think of when you think of Central American forest. You think of more, like these kind, big old leaves. Nice. It's such a pretty waterfall. Oh, it's flowing into their cup, and for Keith's cup. And she's catching it there. Taking all kinds of photos and selfies there at the 1,000-foot falls. There's all kinds of beautiful photos there out here. We're not going to have time to look at them all. I don't think this has, that has no photos, but there are a bunch. This butterfly ranch has some. We can see some blue morphos in this slideshow. There's one. Very rare butterfly you can only find in this part of the world. Blue morphos, they're pretty iconic. Sweet little hummingbird too. How cute. Ooh, and big old moths as well. Little birds, beautiful butterflies. So cool. If we go, let's see, is there anything else that I needed to show you? There's so many nice little slideshows, but are there any that I absolutely had to show you? I'm not sure. There is some ruins over here. Right here along the border, Zunantunich, I think is how you say that. They've got a big pyramid as well, and big steps leading up to the city. How gorgeous. Mayan ruins are so incredible. They got some writing here. And it's interesting how we have like the exact dates of battles that Calakmul fought, because they wrote them down and we can read it. And they wrote down the dates. Oh look, here's the Tree of Life going down to Xibalba, land of the dead, and the sun going around. At midnight, the sun's in Xibalba, and at noon, the sun's up in heaven. Pretty accurate. They were, of course, very good at calendars and dates and such, and telling time. There's the Botanic Gardens. They're having a nice time at the Botanic Garden. Scary Bridge. But there's all kinds of beautiful flowers and greenery. Wow, look at these. They look like little creatures, like little urchins, but they're flowers or something. Some kind of pretty plant. There's a sweet toucan. Isn't that cute? I love toucans. They brought their doggies. Look at these orchids. Gosh, these look like creatures too. They look like little aliens, like little Cthulhu's or something. Most things are this way. Got a little handbook so that you can give yourself a little self-guided tour. Beautiful palm fan. You can buy some plants here too. That's so great. All right, here's San Ignacio. And what's great about this town is that there are Mayan ruins here too. Just here in town. Look at that. Can you imagine? You know how I always talk about how jealous I am of you Europeans that live near stone circles or Roman ruins or such. Imagine living just near Mayan ruins, just having Mayan ruins in the middle of your town that you take for granted. I can't imagine that. That's super cool. Kahapech, I think. I'd say that. That's super cool. I wonder, let me see, what's like near it? Let's see. Like the Orlando shop is right here. This little supermarket is just down the road from the Mayan ruins. This radio station operates outside the Mayan ruins. Can you believe? I certainly can't. There's a whole resort right here, named after the Mayan ruins. It's So if you really wanted to see him, you could stay there. Look at this beautiful pottery with a little fruits. That's cute. Amazing. And then, yeah, there's an iguana conservation over here, which is great. We don't have to look at all the iguanas, though. You can do that in your own time. And a raptor center, too. We don't need to look at animals. I need to show you, I think all the caves I wanted to show you. There's some sinkholes. Oh my gosh, these are so cool, though. Because when you think sinkholes, you think, you know, just like a big hole, right? But look at these big holes. Look at, wow. It's like a crater at that point. 5.1 acres. Isn't that, it's huge. Look at that. That's a sinkhole. It just looks like a regular cliff because it's gigantic. But that's a sinkhole. Did I see ruins pop up over there? Oh yeah, El Pilar Archaeological Site. What's over here? We found some more ruins, I think. Oh yeah, look at that. Yeah, all of these Mayan cities, they were all connected by roads. Papyrus font. Oh my gosh. But those roads are obviously all overgrown. We can't follow them anymore, but there were so many different communities all throughout this area that were all linked, that we just have to slowly but surely find, or maybe not find. Maybe it's best that they stayed buried, just to let nature take over, you know. All right. Oh, this cave. I think. Can I see something real quick? Hold on. Is this the cave with the thing? No. Okay, maybe not this cave. There's a very famous skeleton cave, but this cave, I read that the Mennonites found it by accident. Just sailed into this cave and they found bones and pottery. Of course, like when you find bones, you want to be like 911. But they were very, very old bones, and these caves were set up for rituals and sacrifices, you know what I mean? You can take canoes down into it and see all of these old sacred Mayan sites. How cool is that? And where's the other cave I need to show you? It's somewhere down here. We haven't looked through this all yet, so surely it's going to pop up. I know it's somewhere around here. But we also don't want to get lost in the forest for too long. There's a cave right here. That's not the one I'm looking for, I don't think, but let's see. Rio Frio Cave, great name. Just make sure we don't see any bones. Oh my gosh. That's scary. That's creepy. But you can kind of get why they would do rituals in these kinds of caves, because I bet you they thought that these were caves to Xibalba, right? Xibalba's inside there. So it makes sense. What's that? This did not pop up when I was researching. Land art. What does that mean? Whoa. What is that? Obviously it's land art, but I think it's not ancient. I think this is more modern. Yeah, definitely. It's beautiful, but I was thinking it was like Nazca lines or something. That's pretty cool though. All right. I am going to, oh, here's the cave. Okay, this is the cave. So there are pictures of bones in here. So if that upsets you, you might want to look away for a minute. But these bones are pretty significant because they've been there for so long that they have crystallized. So they're no longer bone. They are now rocks, okay? If that makes it any better. But there's a warning for human remains in this slideshow. This is the most famous of the caves. Looks like you gotta swim into it. And I'm not gonna try to pronounce that name. But yeah, this is just like the other cave where they would have sacrifices in these caves. Look at all the fishies under the water. My goodness. See, this is the skeleton. So it's no longer human bone, it's turned into rock. Isn't that remarkable? I think it's called the Crystal Maiden, but it's actually a boy. The Banana Bank Lodge. It's just in 5 miles, gotta follow the signs. Just past the rainbow. Ooh, you gotta swim into... No, thank you. I'll pass on this cave, to be honest, even though it would be cool to see that crystallized skeleton. I don't think I want to swim to it. No, thank you. There's the Banana Bank Lodge right there in Banana Bank. So here's Spanish Lookout. Now, when I think of a Mennonite town or an Amish town, you think little quaint village, but look at this. It's a whole civilization. They have huge industrial businesses. There's trailers and parts, poultry products. They got restaurants. The Chicken Express is right there. That sounds great. The fence company. Of course, the churches. The crane service is there. There's the German church because they speak German. Yeah, they have all kinds of industries. And not just like the typical handicrafts, but like actual, like look at this automotive AC, like actual modern industry. It's pretty cool. You never really see stuff like that in these kinds of communities. It's huge for a Mennonite. This is a hardware store, the tinsmiths. Look at this. But over here we have Belmopan, and Belmopan is the capital of Belize. You wouldn't know it by looking at it from above because it's very sparse, and you can see over here that it is still growing and expanding. It's very small, but it will be bigger someday. The main government center is here in the middle. The slideshows aren't that great. All the embassies are over here. Here's the U.S. Embassy. Many countries have not moved their embassies here yet. Most of them are still in Belize City. And I guess that's because a lot of countries weren't so sure if this city was going to work out, but apparently it is. There's the University of Belize right there. And yeah, these pictures aren't that great because there's not really a lot to see here in Belmopan. Let's just look at their main slideshow. And population said was just 20,000. Let's see, that's a pretty tree house there. Churches, there's the caves. Yeah, it's nothing too exciting. There's not really even many. This looks like the Brazilian embassy there. Not many tourist things to even do here, unless you want to use it as a jumping off point to go see Mayan ruins, but apparently San Ignacio is used for that. And pretty cliffs over there. But yeah, that's Belmopan. Alright. Is there anything else I needed to show you? Oh yeah, this town over here, it's called More Tomorrow, which is a really pretty name. Apparently, it is the oldest village in Belize, being over 266 years old. And there's really no pictures of it here. But amazing that that's like the first village in Belize. I guess modern village, right? Because the Mayans had whole cities. Oh, here's another cave. I might just end it here. There's so much more to see in this area. As always, I highly recommend that you check it out for yourself. Explore around the forest. Maybe you'll find some Mayan ruins from above. But let's look at St. Herman's Cave as we end the video. Just make sure that we don't see anything too scary. Okay. I mean, it's very scary to me, but make sure that I don't need a trigger warning. Trigger warning, scary cave. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this style of content, please consider subscribing, especially since next we're going to Brazil. And we are going to see a very big city in Brazil, along with some beautiful coastline that you'll only see in Brazil, a very particular type of coastline, which I think is so stunning from above and like in-person views. It's pretty on Google Earth and in person, so be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up just like this rock. Big ol' thumb just like this rock. And let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments. Isn't this place beautiful? I'm glad you clicked on this video. If you didn't know anything about Belize or were just curious about what this video was about and you learned something, let me know and share it with people that you think would also enjoy it. They found a cool rock. They look very proud of themselves. I hope that you found this video to be relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night. See all the coral? Isn't that pretty? Good night. Good night.